Now, Elex is a game that slowly grew on me like a mutated third arm after an extended check on Reactor 4, and to be honest, it took me a couple of tries throughout the years, but I've finally managed to sit on my arse and enjoy it from start to finish. And if you're familiar with Piranha Bytes' game history, the developers behind Elex, you will recognize the signature eurojank, a term uttered with love more than anything else here, but you will also recognize the base skeleton upon which all of their original IPs are built upon, which is a medieval drug cartel simulator with great exploration, character progression tied to a steep but rewarding learning curve, and sometimes a story that makes sense or at least does the job in keeping a wonderful open world organic, something a lot of open world RPGs out there struggle with and fail miserably. However, in Elix's case, the medieval part is supplemented by some doomsday vibes as we are exploring a game world set in the planet of Megalon, where a comet once fell and wiped out civilization, leaving the survivors to desperately cling to their last vestiges of humanity while reverting wildlife back to primordial times with velociraptors, oversized roosters, and mutants roaming around the battered ruins of a once thriving planet, just like in Eastern Europe. No wonder piranha bytes are worshipped as gods around here. Right from the get-go, you will be greeted by the basic premise of a Piranha Bytes game. You are a weak, pathetic, anemic wimp who's lost his ability to lift a wrench properly and have to slowly make your way through the hostile world, picking your fights, getting ordered about, squeezing XP here and there so that you can finally gear up and kill that sewer rat that's been ruining your day. And you will come to know the law of the jungle eventually, that there are three factions that fight for control over things, just like in Gothic and Risen, with their myopic views and delusions of grandeur, and something I've always loved, force you to decide which of the three are the least obnoxious, narrow-minded, fascist, and racist, and join them so that you can rise in the food chain. Or you could just pick the ones that offer the coolest armor, that's okay. And after harassing the local fauna for what seems like a lifetime, you will eventually settle with one of the factions, choosing between the law-abiding berserkers who, despite their vitriolic hatred towards all technology, seem to have wired the whole place because you can't even rub one without them getting all menstrual about it.
What a bastard. He's preaching about nature and all that. Now, in order to win his trust, I should just give him money. This is bullshit.
Or perhaps the scrap junkies calling themselves the outlaws who worship total disregard for the human life and will turn a blind eye to murder in broad daylight as long as there's profit for them. We'll go around parading as the nastiest throat-slitting subhuman scumbags, but we'll actually squirm under every available dialogue option of intimidation and can't even hold a candle to their medieval counterpart, the mercenaries from Gothic.
Go crawl back under your rock.
Silvio doesn't like being talked to. You might have gathered as much by now. Well, at least you've got some gold on you.
The only thing these outlaws seem to be united about is protecting their hookers.
Put that weapon away.
Put that weapon away.
Put that weapon away. That is enough. Take that.
But in a world like that, who can blame him, hey? Or the final option, the Tetragrammaton clerics in their sci-fi castle in the volcano, who regrettably have the coolest armor and weapons but are a bunch of religious crybabies, and I wouldn't join them even under pain of death by throw snoo snoo. But once you do make that fateful decision, you will start earning your place, just like in Gothic, by picking up turnips.
Kind of a troll quest, in my opinion.
But come on, man, I mean, you are Jax, an ex-alt commander groomed for the title of Elexitor, a ruthless weapon in the hands of the sleeper, I mean the hybrid betrayed by his own, spat out into the complex world of human emotion. In time, you will learn to cope with it, slowly shedding the skin of your former self as Elex withdraws from your body and you become more and more human, finally, reaching the pinnacle of empathy.
Be an asshole. So are we gonna fuck or what?
Or you could realize that this world ain't much worth in the first place and that the comet should have wiped out everything, so check those Elex potions and finish what some stupid rock from outer space couldn't. So here's what's going on around in the vast open map of Elex. There's this resource called, no surprise here, Elex, a thing brought down with the comet, spreading through the veins of the earth, enriching it or poisoning it, just a matter of perspective, and the opposing factions will all have their contradicting opinions on the matter, but basically this is your magic ore from Gothic. And then again, some have taken it one step further and with a solemn hail the sleeper in their hearts are consuming the stuff in order to become Uber soldiers. You being guilty of being one of them. But don't worry about that, Elex offers you a rather diverse arsenal to redeem yourself while committing genocide against your own. Pity that the combat is, as per Piranha Bytes standards, quite stiff, and most of the encounters will revolve around you memorizing the enemy's moveset while also knowing that, say, this is a rod boar and it will die from exactly 2.5 hits from my one-handed sword, or 2 hits from my two-handed, or 2 shots from my warbow, etc. But combat is quite one-dimensional, with no variables, no surprises. Sure, there are a lot of abilities that you can choose from, learn and upgrade, and supplement your preferred archetype of a character, for example, sword and board, two-handed weapons, hammers, swords, laser rifles, grenade launchers, flamethrowers, but again, it kind of boils down to a methodical step-by-step combat, as is per, Piranha Bytes standards again. And the enemies that you're going to fight are your typical scavengers, mole rats, snappers, shadow beasts, trolls, but reskinned to fit the aesthetics of the game, which for some might be a recycling of assets, but for me it was kind of a trip down memory lane with the addition of mutants. And all of these can be cut, incinerated, disintegrated, blasted with grenades, or simply pounded into the ground and harvested for organs and math. Nothing is lost, like a perfect example of entropy. And the world is 99% open, with almost every inch of grass, desert, volcanic ash, or ice explorable, with the addition of a jetpack which promotes vertical exploration, something you will immediately notice and has perhaps outweighed the need for caves and underground areas to explore. But it only makes sense that in a post-apocalyptic world like that, going underground would not be the wisest thing. There are some laboratories and underground areas you can explore that are choked in pestilence and radiation and whatnot that are actually rewarding to check out. But there were too few compared to other games in the genre. And I think that in a game where something hit the earth and is spreading through the crust of the planet, I think it would have been cool to explore some underground systems and fight aberrations of Elix's effect on the subterranean wildlife, for example. But to offset that, there's a lot of high ground to cover and you will be soaring like a bird a lot of the time. But beware though, as soon as you squeeze a fart out of that jetpack, enemies will snipe you from the other side of the fucking planet, man. One might say the old school feeling of navigating a map without markers is kind of ruined, since you have your own Pip-Boy and you can actually track quests, which make progressing through the main story and all of the quests actually 1,000 times faster during your first playthrough than it was in OG Gothic, for example. But let's face it, we're in the future now with jetpacks and laser rifles. They even have jackhammers now. And there I was pilfering through every damn merchant out there for a fucking pickaxe. And your journey through this vast open world will be divided into 4 chapters, and this is where I felt the game kind of stumbled a bit. Now, you can spend 30 to 40 hours dicking around in chapter 1, pumping iron and becoming a murderous machine, and by the time you actually get thick and start doing the main story, and chances are you've mulled through all the side content and a feeling of emptiness might begin to creep up on you. Compared to other Piranha Bytes games, I felt a certain lack of random NPCs out there in the wilderness, but again, it would fit the aesthetics of a world gone to shit for there not to be people roaming around in the full-out wilderness. There are almost no random settlements or villages, save for a few spots here and there in Mirtana. I mean, Idan, your starting area, Greenland. But once you begin to spread out, and once you begin to explore the fringes of the map, you will notice that humanity is spread even thinner. And while there are unique weapons and gear to scavenge out there, most of your punch will come from upgrading your chosen faction arsenal. And since 99% of the loot you get while exploring will be just scrap and upgrade mats, along with the most important pre-apocalypse Gopnik artifacts, cigarettes and toilet paper, sometimes soft for all your gentle souls out there, you might notice that feeling that you're playing a survival crafting game rather than an open world RPG, especially when you're roaming around in Tavar. Still, some of the most badass weapons are out there, so hunting and finding them is actually really rewarding. And as you finally decide it's time to wrap it up and go and kill a sleeper, I mean the hybrid, you feel a divine intervention, a guiding hand steering Jax's thoughts towards a info dump style type of narrative, a bit devoid of sense and logic, or at least compared to what you've been doing all game long. And while there are choices to be made, with them being available to you in case you've met certain conditions, there's that feeling that much of it was predetermined. Which, however, is not a bad thing. I mean, we all need to be reminded of our own cosmic irrelevance every once in a while, right? It just felt that going through my Gothic 1 to 3 memories and even the first and third Risen games, there was a bit more to it when it came to the final showdown. And in Elex, it kind of happened too fast without there actually being this idea of pilgrimage. Nevertheless, Elex is a game from a dying breed. A once in a few years type of experience, sincere in its goofiness like your slightly retarded cousin who you know is a good kid, a bit shy, not like the cool brats that would stick a firecracker up a stray cat's orifice. It's one of those rare cases with a game where actually comparing it to its predecessors isn't a bad thing, and it will by no means translate into a worse game simply because, for example, Gothic is a superior series. It is more of the same yet different with all its quirks, not all bad, with all the aspects of glorious eurojank that will certainly bring up fond memories from your previous Gothic or Risen playthroughs, and is probably the last game out there with unlimited inventory space. Thank the fucking gods. Not to mention that for a game released in 2017, it actually looks pretty good. It looks really decent. It never takes itself seriously. Like there is no handholding, no bullshit, just a straight up single player experience with you get what you pay for and nothing less. I'd recommend it any day, giving it a solid mutated thumbs up. It is a game that can definitely scratch that RPG itch, and if you're a fan of Piranha Bytes' previous titles and you've somehow missed that one, there is no reason for you not to try it. I've heard Elex 2 is also great. It kind of builds upon that already great foundation. It improves on a lot of what Elex already had to offer, so I'm really hyped to give it a go as well. I'll be playing it, I'll be covering it, fingers crossed, pretty soon. In the meantime, go crush some meat bugs, I guess. I don't know. See you out there and stay sane.
You know, when I first met you, I thought you'd just fuck around. So, you actually did it.